Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Nick Gliemann.
Kyle Wigginton.
Yeah, that's close. It's close enough. So we're out here podcasting outside. It's the first outside podcast I've done.
I was about to say, this is amazing. This is like the perfect setting, the perfect atmosphere.
Well, minus whatever storm's about to hit us.
That just makes it better.
Yeah. No, it is. So I was actually thinking about this earlier. Like I used to try to do everything like perfect, but now I'm like, you know what? Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
Let's just get it done.
Yeah. Let's just do it. It's such a hard barrier to kind of break through. Like, it doesn't have to be this like amazing, perfect thing I see in my mind. Like it's just, I'm better off just doing it and getting as close as I can.
Yeah. As long as you get it done, right?
Easier said than done though.
What do you think about those hummingbirds there?
I love that. We used to always have hummingbirds out at my old place. And it's just a really enchanting vibe that they bring. Just makes me feel good.
Dude, something I saw recently was, you might have seen this already. I mean, the internet might have seen this, but it was a bird chirping in slow motion. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I did see that.
Bro, that is the trippiest thing.
It sounded like a dinosaur or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounded like. How long do you think we got?
Before this storm rolls in?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we just need to use our mage abilities and shaman abilities and just
push it away.
Send it away. Yeah.
So all day long, I was thinking about this. I was like, man, it's such a beautiful day. And then right whenever we start podcasting.
Yeah.
So dude, what's been going on with you, man?
What's been going on with me? I have been doing 90-day transformations, helping people basically just upgrade their health and give them the tools necessary to make transformations, but not at just like a superficial level. Also like, really just getting down to feeling good and implementing different strategies to do that and support the body through, this process that, people are pretty much choosing to move through. They want to upgrade and they want to see like new territory and terrain, see what their bodies can do. So I'm kind of showing them, opening up possibilities for health that maybe most people don't quite grasp or know that it's there or possible because we're so conditioned to be in this kind of sedimented, concretized kind of, numb sort of place, with our health that we just kind of generally accept as the norm. But when you taste and touch new dimensions of health, you realize that there's more than meets the eye for sure on the inner, just the body. That's just the body. That's not even the emotional, mental, or other subtle bodies,
Yeah, I think, the guy, I had a guy on the podcast yesterday or a couple days ago, and he was talking about how the body and mind are connected. And in order to have a strong mind, you must have a strong body.
Yep.
And I think it's a lot of kind of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, are you working with them with like the meditation aspect of it too?
Not yet. We're not quite there yet. With some people I am.
Yeah.
And they get that it's, a total mind body, connection. And they get that some people are really just in it for just what they can do with their physical body. Mm-hmm. But I do, inevitably you're always going to be end up using your mind. There's just no way around it with the physical body. Like you're using it whether you realize it or not, but if you use the mind consciously in the process, you can probably make bigger leaps. And definitely integrating the mind is important because there's the nervous system regulation that comes with that really, really helps embody kind of a new space within yourself. And I think, having the mind oriented around that and all the other possibilities, all the other ways you can use your mind, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of silly to not have that element in there. But
I noticed for me, whenever I was getting healthier body wise, I wanted to meditate.
Yeah.
Like it almost pushed me to become that.
You want to go to that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, holding all that space and really getting in there. It's like, mentally, all the mental space, like how do I rein all this in? Because now I'm juggling 10 different things, I got the workouts and I got the breathing, and I got the walking, and I got the sun, and I got XYZ things. It's like, how do I keep all of this under wraps and make this a priority? Inevitably, you know, the mind has to come into play at some point. And if you have a sharper, stronger mind,
Man, I hate that I have to do this, but I'm going to have to cut you off on that.
it's okay. It's okay.
I need to grab my windshield.
Feels like we're just getting warmed up. I'm kind of just like getting used to the vibe of, it's like, if we're having this conversation, I'm trying to like just have this conversation with you and not think like this is going out and projecting to the world, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of get used to it as you do more. Like for me now, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, right, yeah.
On your mic. Maybe I'll stop some of the way from going there. I have one of those actually. It's the problem with traveling. Be all right. When I'm bored. Yeah, I think for me now, I've done so many of these podcasts that I'm just kind of like, fuck it.
Yeah.
They're gonna, whoever hears it's gonna deal with it.
Yeah, and like you said, like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like,
Yeah.
forget it.
Well, you got to be yourself.
Gotta
Like
be
a lot of
yourself.
times, whenever we're trying to please everyone around us, we stop being ourselves.
That's so true. Yeah. And why do we do that? Why do we try to please everybody? What is that?
Well, for me, I think it's a human trait.
Like, you think it's almost survival?
Yeah, I think it's a social thing. Humans have evolved to please the ones around them. We're very social creatures. So in order for us to fit in with everyone around us, we need to say things that, you know, pleases everyone, or so we think. But if you actually stop and really look around you, the ones that tend to disagree with the status quo, they tend to be the most watched and respected people, because everyone wants to say it, but not everyone has the cojones to step up to the plate and be that guy.
Just
or
say
girl.
it like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can we get into today that really pushes the limits and breaks any people pleasing?
Well, dude, I can talk about anything.
We could talk about the Communist Manifesto in Canada. We could go into
let's start there. Lay it on me. What do you think?
the Communist Manifesto. I think Trudeau is bought and sold by Chinese communists, and he's pretty much rolling out, you know, the totalitarian 1984 agenda that we're all pretty much aware of now. I think the fires that are there right now are all arson, really, and they're playing it off as climate change. And maybe there is an element of climate change that is relevant and real, but I really think most of it's just leveraged against us so that they can put more laws and regulations in that constantly, slowly just squeezes us into their model, into their system. And Canada's a nightmare right now, and it's just right above us.
Mm-hmm.
It's
that means
nuts.
it's next door.
It's nuts. I mean, I don't, you know, it's
Do you have any friends in Canada?
No, not like close friends. I mean, people I know through the internet, like internet friends.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Well, that's why I wonder if, like, the stuff that we see, because I know what you're talking about right now with the fires and stuff, like, is all this stuff really going on? That's kind of what I think about the internet nowadays. Like, what is real anymore? Like, I know that you and I are sitting here at this beautiful place. The animals are flying around. Everything's moving just fine. The storm actually went away when we pushed this direction. Like, whatever that is, the storm's gone now.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's real anymore?
What's real? And that's another scary thing that I think we're up against. It's like, well, you know, how do we discern and see what's real and what's a psyop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we being psychologically manipulated and what is actually legit? And I think that's part of the divide and conquer strategy. Create as much confusion as possible. And with the internet now and AI, it's only going to get more, it's going to get harder for us to discern, I think. But
have you been playing with AI much?
A little bit. I recently just started using like playing with Chat GPT and maybe like a voice mod too. And I'm just kind of seeing like what is out there and what's relevant, what actually works. And when it comes to, I just want to go ahead and say this about AI. I think it's important that AI is used as, you know, used to do robotic tasks, and we leave the human stuff to humans. You know what I mean?
Feel the wind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have I've played with the Chat GPT online, and I hate getting on my computer every time to do this stuff, but I downloaded it's called AI Chat. It's an app on the phone. And what I've been noticing, because while I'm here with my parents, they're always asking me stuff, and I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. Like, let's Google it. And my dad's always Googling things. He's asking Siri stuff. He has a thick Southern accent. Siri can't understand him for shit.
Yeah.
But it's funny. What I started doing is having him Google what he's asking me, and then I'll ask the AI chat, and we'll see the different answers that we get. And a lot of time, Google throws him down a rabbit hole because those answers are bought, they're paid for, right?
Yep.
But the chat AI, dude, it gives us very detailed answers. Like
super detailed,
dude. It's incredible. Like one of the things he's struggling with right now, and he might get mad at me for putting his news on blast, but he's type 2 diabetes. Like he's going down that rabbit hole right now. So all the stuff he's eating right now, he's asking me like, yo, can I eat this? Can I eat that? And I'm like, well, let's Google it. And then he Googles it. Once again, information everywhere. Yes, no, yes, no. Ask AI chat. It gives you like a super detailed answer about what the food is and what it does for type 2 diabetic. It's incredible, actually.
Interesting.
But it's a tool.
So where did he arrive? I'm just curious. Like as far as like solutions, kind of like what did it present? Because I'm curious. Is it giving kind of like a generic general answer, or is it diving in and actually? How resourceful is it is what I'm trying to figure out.
So we were asking it about certain foods. One of the foods we asked about was cactus, nopales. He had a guy tell him that cactus was good for diabetics. So I asked AI, is cactus good for this? And it gave me a breakdown of like cactus is good for diabetics, blah, blah, blah. But then it started saying things about the way you eat food is what really matters for diabetics. So veggies first, protein second, and then sugars and starches third. And that was an incredible thing that I was like, holy shit. Like most of the time you have to get a dietitian for this kind of information.
Yeah. Right. And there's so many subtle things like that with what order do you eat foods and why, and what is the timing behind all of it. And it's like, whoa, this is a lot, I highly recommend enzymes because I recently learned that the main role of the pancreas, we think it's producing insulin. It's really producing enzymes to break down food. So I think a lot of people actually get diabetes because they are eating all of these foods in combinations and their body can't break it down, so that their pancreas is massively strained. And then, boom, you end up having diabetes. So adding in the enzymes for anybody is super powerful. If you just go on a raw food diet or mostly raw food diet, you can really, put a dent in reversing type 2 diabetes really, really fast because your pancreas doesn't have to work overtime.
Right. So what do you mean enzymes? Is it something he can take or?
Yeah. There's like food-based enzymes, and it's kind of like, I was actually thinking about this on the way here, funny enough, but it's like, it helps you break down the food more and use more of it. Basically, yeah, it almost pre-digests the food for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Because he's actually switched his diet up a lot. He's lost a lot of weight already. This was like 2 months ago when he was first hit with this information. So I'm proud of him. He's on the right track.
Yep.
We had a setback last night. It wasn't a setback food wise, but it was health wise. So we had a alumni basketball game last night. We both graduated from the same school, so we're like, let's play one more time together.
Yeah.
My knee's already jacked up.
You guys went all out then.
I was jacked up already, but I was like, I'm gonna go out there and play a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I got about 4 minutes in before I was like, no, I'm throwing in the towel. So he was still out there playing a little bit, and he's the oldest one on the court because he's in his 60s now. He goes to turn and plant one time, something in his back hamstring twists. So now he's hobbling around today. He's fine. He's a tough guy, but I mean, he has a little injury right now.
Yeah.
But no, I'm proud of him with the diet. We actually tried the cactus. Cactus was nice.
You like taste?
The taste was nice. Even the effect, it makes you shit your brains out the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
You said Napoli?
Nopales.
Nopales.
Yeah. It's actually right down the street from the gym, the place I got it from.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Los Arcos.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
a little Mexican store?
Yeah, man. I've been there since they had their restaurant was actually in the back of that building, and they had, it was just their whole entire menu was in Spanish, and that's where the locals go. And we were like,
Was the food good?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
we were like, let's go here. Like this is where to go get Mexican food, you know?
Well, I didn't eat the food the other day. I just got the cactus, and I also got they have cases of mango for
Really?
$7.
What?
Dude, I was like, what the F? Because I pay in New Orleans, I pay like for this much mango, $8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, a whole case, done. I'm taking cases back with me.
Yeah. Like, sorry guys, or anybody who wanted mangoes. I just happened to come to town and
Just loaded up on all of them.
Yeah.
I'll take them back and sell them to the place I get them from. Yeah. Make a profit on it.
Yeah. Man, it's so nice out here. And like the way that there's like dark clouds, but there's like light coming in and hitting the trees, and we're on this like hill here, and it's immaculate out here.
It really is beautiful. It was really nice to grow up here too. Yeah, when I grew up here, there were houses all down the row, and there was other kids that lived around here, so I get to play with the kids forever, and we ran through the woods.
Yeah.
It was nice, man.
All the real stuff.
All the real stuff. If we're lucky, while we're sitting out here, we might see deer walk up on us right here.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I'm like a princess out here with all my animals.
Yeah, they're super relaxed. Man, yeah, I can't imagine. I really don't know what it would be like to grow up in like a city where I'm stacked on top of people in my, I just can't I really can't fathom that. And, what does that mean for humans? How domesticated are we that it's like coming to nature becomes the luxury or the niche experience. It's like, instead of the default experience, like that just blows my mind that there are so many people who are like just stacked. And I'm not saying it's bad necessarily.
I'll say it's bad. Like I know.
Yeah. And you know what? It does suck. And that's just me like getting over that.
Yeah.
Just telling it like it is and getting over that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to offend somebody. Or it's like, I have to have this constant hyper filter on because it's 2023 and it's like, you know what? The buildings suck. It's lame. And they're probably going to use them to become prison cells.
Which is not.
That's what they are doing in China. Actually, they are doing that. They're like, well, why would we build entire prisons or camps when we can just lock people in their own homes?
That's absurd.
I mean, yeah, not to be like fear porning, but
what would you do in that scenario? If you were in that scenario,
I don't know. Literally what I would do is I would just go full,
Rambo.
Oh yeah. Full Rambo or full vagabond. I mean, like it's over at that point. You are up against, I mean, complete fascist tyrants, there's no, I mean, you are completely, that's where there's the line, that's the line in the sand. I mean, it's just way too far. I mean, people cannot leave. They can't get food. They are literally, I don't know if you saw the video, but people like a video and everybody's on their balconies, like screaming. Like,
I have seen that.
Everybody. It's like, what do you do? I don't know. I'd be definitely really going to, I mean, the absolute extreme, full blown.
Yeah, I've even seen in China right now where they're going to the farms. Like the farms aren't even safe anymore. Like if you're not growing the correct crops, they'll arrest you and they'll start burning your crops down and stuff.
Doesn't surprise me. Well, I wonder why. That's an interesting one. I haven't heard of that. Maybe they just want.
You think it's like a food thing? I feel like everything's preparing. They're all preparing for war right now.
Yeah, there's the whole war on food right now. So there's probably definitely some influence there on the food realm. I mean, I don't know if you saw what's going on in the Netherlands. I'm pretty sure it's the Netherlands.
No,
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's the Netherlands, but pretty much the WEF, taking over the farms. And it's been going on for like a year. These farmers protesting like, yo, you're not just going to come and take our land. And, they produce a lot of the world's food. I'm sure most of 20% of Europe's food. So, I mean, they're really trying to create a food crisis, and yeah, because then that makes us more dependent on them.
The government. Yeah.
And it's just constantly that push and pull nonstop. And it's like,
yeah,
like, holy shit. I've never been more happy to be in America, really.
Well, happy to be in this area of America too.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's so different in cities, man.
Yeah.
Like when I come back here, it's like night and day compared to what I live in New Orleans. Like down there, it's just, it's getting worse and worse and worse. If you have a nice vehicle down there, you might walk outside and it might be gone the next day.
Really?
Like it's that bad right now. We see people's cars get stolen on the daily basis in broad daylight. Like they'll pull up to a restaurant to get food or something, run inside to grab their food, which I think is dumb anyway. You don't turn your car off and lock the doors in a city, but they'll run inside, grab their food, and then somebody's in the car gone. It's like, are people just sitting there stalking cars out to take them?
I mean, I wonder is anybody getting away with that? You know?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, there was a girl. Okay, there was a person outside of the place that I live. Yeah. You get it. There was a person outside the place that I live one night, and I'm the only male that's on the outside of the building. So a lot of times if the females have an issue, they'll call me. So when I'm calling me, I was like, hey, Kyle, will you come outside and help with this situation? I was like, okay. So I run outside real quick, and there's a trans person, man dressed as a female. So I guess a female with green hair, and it's a black person. And they were like, hey, will you, and the person was out there just stealing shit, just literally taking stuff, filling it in the cooler, and then walking around with it, looking for more stuff to take. And they're like, she's taking stuff. And I was like, hey, are you stealing stuff? First of all, I asked the person, no, this is my stuff. And I was like, well, I have options here. I can sit and just watch this person take this stuff. I can call the cops. They're not going to come. Even if you call them, they're not coming because it's not very much stuff. It's not very expensive. Or I can take something and hit this person over the head with it. And then who's at fault? A white man just hit a black trans person, and now I'm at fault. So I was like, I guess I'll just take the option of stand here and watch what's going on.
Yeah.
So I had to just stand there and watch this person take everyone's shit and then wheel outside of the building. And then finally one of the girls actually come outside, called the cops, and the cops basically said, how much is the stuff worth? And the girl said, I don't know, about $500. And they're like, okay. That was it. That's all they said was, okay, like they're not coming.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, they got, people stealing cars. They're like, yeah, it's not on our priority list.
Yeah. So it's like you either, if it's your hands are almost tied now to stop things like that. You almost have to just sit and watch. And that's not the world you want to live in. You want to live in a world where if someone's coming to take something away, that you stop them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you just take it into your own hands right then and it's done.
Yeah.
Like I don't need a third party. Like we can just figure this out right now. Done.
Yeah. There's a big stick right here. I'm going to figure this out really quick. Yeah.
So you just let them take it?
Yeah. And what I wanted to do, I'm going to put this on the record. I wanted to walk up to this person, take that big stick and just break both of their hands and let them go. Break their hands, they can't steal again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Do you feel like I often think this, like, where are our karmic repercussions? Where do they lie for acts of violence? And when does it make sense?
Right.
At what point is it just kind of like, well, take it versus, at what point am I pushing back,
I fight with that a lot too. I was in my mind that night, I was like, if this person doesn't harm anyone, then I'm not going to do anything. That's kind of where I came to the conclusion. I was like, if Danielle, which was the female that was getting her stuff stolen, I was like, if she goes and tries to procure her stuff and this person tries to fight Danielle, then I feel like I'm obligated to help my friend. And I feel like that would take the karmic away from me. But I think if I would just run out there and assaulted this person for taking someone else's stuff, that's when it's on me. But luckily, I had the forethought to be like, no, this probably isn't a good idea. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
But I do try to weigh the positive and negative with everything that happens in life.
Yeah. Like at what point is it necessary and actually helps somebody else? Or is this just going to inflict violence or harm for overall there's no, it's just kind of like, maybe I would have been better off just letting this person take this or.
Let me ask you one with the karmic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the karma waits until you're dead, or do you think karma affects you while you're still alive? So if you did something negative right now, then something negative would happen to you in life.
So I think karma is fundamentally the way we respond. I think karma is just our response. I don't think it's any like engineered thing that's happening to us because of things we did. I think it's what we draw in and what we make of situations, and what is our response to them. So I think if you're breaking and clearing karma, eventually your responses to life are going to be more elevated, so to speak, or you have a greater scope of how to handle situations that maybe if you have more karma that you're holding on to, you might not be able to see those solutions, and you might be, that's where you're stuck, because you have a limited set of responses based on what you know or understand, which is because of your limitations, which is your karma or your responses. So I don't know if that, I still think we are under the influence of karma, here and now in our physical bodies and beyond, for sure.
What, can you give me an example of something you're talking about?
How do I ground this? Okay. Yeah. Like, let's say, I'm following the guidance of my higher mind, and I'm intuitively following that flow. But let's say, I don't know, for the past few months, I've been doing or engaging in, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be violence. It could be smoking. It could be eating animals. It could be whatever. I don't know. It could be something that's just not of your highest nature, we could say. Not that I have anything wrong. I don't think it's...
You're doing it again.
Nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with eating animals necessarily. I think just take what you need from life. That's all I have. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just take what you need. But so if you were karmically bound, maybe you wouldn't have the mind or the scope to see what your higher mind is laying out in front of you to take action on it, to actually be much more efficient in your manifestations inwardly and outwardly, how effective you are in the world, where you can actually take a fast track, we could say, towards fulfilling your mission or your dharma, whatever, whatever. And whereas, if you're in the karmic loops and you're doing all these things, your response to an opportunity that might present itself is going to be, let's say you have this opportunity to go on this awesome retreat or vacation, and you have all this karma stacked up. And so your response is kind of like, oh yeah, it'd be cool, but I don't know, like I got this going on and whatever, I'm more involved and preoccupied with X, Y, and Z, but if you were liberated from that karma, you'd be like, oh, that's no biggie. And, I have all of my ducks in a row, and I can actually see and grasp how amazing this will be for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. But you could actually have the exact same circumstances, but because you have less karma, and your response is more, we could say, conscious, less limited, you can take and follow that opportunity and benefit from it. And, likely for others can benefit from it too, usually.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's a good answer.
I don't know. I'm kind of riffing. I hope that kind of illustrated it without too much, too many words.
I think it works. I think it picks out. Yeah, I mean, because what I'm trying to do is when you're giving these scenarios, I'm trying to look back at my life and find places where that's actually happened to me.
Yep. I can definitely see it for me. It's like if you're, I don't know, caught in like mega super party culture, or you're like deep into the matrix and you're like, really focused on reputation and status and money and sex and like all of this bullshit. Like you can't even see all the things that were like, hey, this was right here for you the whole time. And you could have actually been, you could have been doing for example, for me, I could be doing the things I'm doing now. I could have been way further along a few years ago had I not been consumed with, things that are irrelevant to my real path.
But how old are you again?
24.
Yeah, so that was me in my entire 20s, okay? Like I wasn't actually even in line with like who I am now and until I was probably like 33.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean my entire 20s was just like I was just falling around everywhere, like trying to find myself.
Yeah.
I mean that's actually how I met Travis and I met Amanda. So I mean I met a lot of great people during that time, but it was just it was me finding myself. And I think for me, I had to go a long way away to find myself too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I New Orleans.
It is not. I don't know. I guess you could say it's not for the faint of heart. It's not. It's a very sincere undertaking and quest, and it takes a lot to really arrive at that alignment. You know, where you're like, okay, the dust can settle now.
Yeah, that's
feel good about it.
That's one thing I can say about living in New Orleans is there are a lot of like-minded people to like you and I down there, a lot more than I can find up here. It's very rare to come across someone like you up here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
From what I've found. Yeah.
Likewise. Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm so stoked to have this conversation because I can just riff in a space that and talk in a way that makes sense to me and that's relevant. I mean, it's just more, I don't have to, you have the lingo and terminology and it's like, I don't have to preface this entire thing. And then, it feels like we can actually talk and get somewhere and go somewhere instead of like, okay, now I'm like giving a discourse on X, Y, and Z and we completely derailed from,
I had lunch with one of my buddies that I went to college with today. Haven't seen him in probably like, 12, 13 years. So a lot's changed since then. And he was asking me these questions and I was like, just letting it fly off the dome.
Yep.
And I looked up at one point because I'm just like talking like crazy, eating my wings. We had wings to go, talking like crazy. And then all of a sudden I look up and he's just like,
oh yeah.
He's like, that sounds crazy. Yeah. I had no clue even what to say to that.
And that's the thing. It's like at a certain point, for me anyways, I just want to say things like they are and just boom, spit it out. And I think more and more I'm guided or called or pulled to be around more frequency resonant souls that I don't have to lay a foundation or stage for what I'm saying. It can just be received like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's really, really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me anyways, with where I'm at in my life right now, because, it's just like, almost like there's just too much friction. I don't know. Maybe that sounds bad.
Well, no, you were,
it's just a resonance thing. It's like, if I can't just speak and it be received,
the other day when I passed you in the gym, you were in the zone, baby. I don't know what you had something on the mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I was definitely in a zone of sorts. I didn't really get that much sleep that night and I had opened the gym that morning. So I was actually pretty tired, but I was like, let me knock out X, Y, and Z and dash out here and take a nap. Was that probably really what I was thinking? I was like, I need to get a nap.
No, I like that in the gym too, man. I go in my own little headspace. I think it's what I told you that day too. I was like, I'm gonna finish my workout and then I'll hit you up whenever I finish my workout. Cause like whenever I get in there, it's like go time. Headphones go in, music starts pumping. I just get in my head and I knock out my workout and I do my little meditations while I'm working out. And I leave there in Zen.
Yeah. And because you're actually extracting the most, you're like drawing and getting the most out of it. And I feel like that's what I always do when I'm in the gym. It's like, how can I extract and get the absolute most quality out of this on all levels where I leave and I'm satisfied. And it wasn't just a social, or I don't feel like I, wasted my time or I was like, just got lost in this conversation and it totally broke my flow. It's like, I'm going to resent myself, if I do that.
Yeah, it's absolutely what's happened to me in the past. I know this now. That's why I kind of like stay in my own little space whenever I'm in there. Because I know that if I go in there and start talking to people and take the headphones out, the next thing I know, I'll be lost in conversation and workout was a bust.
Yeah. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to go home now.
Yeah.
Pump is gone and I cooled down effectively from this conversation. So peace. You got to keep that fire stoked.
Absolutely. Let's see. What else can we get into today?
We can get into, there were a lot of things that I kind of wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Whatever you got, dude.
Now it's like I'm like drawing it in. I'm like, what is it? I really, really wanted to get into, and maybe I had sent you this book. I really wanted to get into the Rudolf Steiner's Lucifer and Ahriman, the Luciferic and Ahrimanic poles, and kind of get into that. And how do we balance and harmonize those? What is that? And
hang on, we got. Let's let this little siren pass. I don't know where they're even going. What's even over there? There's nothing cool even over there. Now, I love me some Steiner. Yeah. What if they come over here and get us?
I know.
Trippy.
Yeah. Broke the matrix, speaking too much truth. We got Agent Smith.
So what is Steiner getting into with this? The Lucifer and
so this is like the core. And he said this is like the core of all of his teachings. This is really where like everything comes together and where he really arrived at. And we are pretty much, you could look at it like the cross, Christ at the top, and then you have Lucifer and Ahriman on both sides. And we're constantly balancing these two poles that we're just naturally subject to as humans. This, you could say they're entities or, beings. And
so what's at the bottom?
I think it's Sorat, and I think that's like Antichrist.
Okay.
Yeah. Or represented. I actually just recently started studying that. So we're constantly between these, and we could look at it in a very scientific manner. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're in between the wills of these two, deities or whatever. It's, the Ahrimanic influence is an influence that says we are material beings. There's no spirit. Everything is material. There's any paranormal or anything like that. We can't look at that. We can't measure that. It's irrelevant. All spiritual experiences are completely irrelevant. If it doesn't put food on the table, it's pointless. And there's a lot of, it's just that consciousness. It's a very sedimented, hard, rigid, hyper material kind of place. On the other hand, we have the Luciferic pole, which especially a lot of people fall prey to this in the like just spiritual communities. This is like fantasy and superstition superstition. There's another really key word here, aloofness. It's kind of a withdrawn feeling from the earth. And this could be represented as a disintegrative force. So you take, or escapism, that's the word I was looking for. Where are you escaping? That's a Luciferic force. So let's say, and I'm not going to label either of these as good or bad. I just, let's say you're in this mode of, I'm just work, and it's money, checkbook. And I'm just super into the material world. Maybe you need something, you're going to eventually create or crave some type of escape or relief from that. So now you're swinging over here. And we're pushed and pulled between these two extremes. And the point Steiner is really making is we're naturally subject to this. There's not too much we can do about it, but where we find ourselves in the middle and holding those two things in balance, where they're remedying each other and we're not too far in one or the other, and we're not escaping through means that's harmful to us, or we're not making money or being consumed by the material world in a way that's harmful to us. Where do we meet in the middle? And that's that spiritual science. That's that middle balance. And that's what he describes as the Christ force. And where those two marry, and we can describe them as parasitic forces. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying, like I said, they're not good or bad, but generally speaking, the extremes are very, very parasitic, and people do fall prey to these forces. And it is a very tragic, sad thing. If we use it to our benefit, we can actually springboard our development a lot faster and further align with Christ consciousness. And that is really the core of the teaching. And slowly, more and more, as time goes on, what was once relevant and Christed in that time eventually becomes Ahrimanic, and it slowly loses its relevance. So we're constantly trying to find the balance, and it's ever evolving as these poles are, there's always a new status quo to keep up with. And so as we evolve through these epochs, what the Christ consciousness or that kind of archetype, how that manifests within us is going to be different. So, things aligning with that force now is going to take a different form than maybe it did however many years ago, 2,000 years ago.
Interesting.
I could talk about it forever, but yeah.
No, that brings up a lot of great points. So
once you get it and it clicks,
yeah,
it makes, it pulls everything together for me anyways.
Well, so one of the ways I'm looking at it right now is that could be the left hemisphere of the brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, and then the Christ consciousness or the crown chakra. And then it
kind of makes sense, actually.
The root chakra.
It actually kind of does make sense. I don't think it's like a duality, but that does make sense. Like left brain would obviously be very harmonic, algorithms, these types of things, hyper logical, and then the right brain being, fantasy and imagination or creativity, we can say.
Well, and then you have this energy that's rising up the spinal column.
Yep.
Your kundalini energy, and it's going left and right the entire time, the serpent energy. So it's going through both sides, and it's also you're trying to get to the crown chakra. I wonder where these guys come up with these stuff, because there's so many parallels in all the different religions and things. That's why I like to draw on nowadays, because I know a lot about that one now. So it's funny to me that Rudolf Steiner is saying things like this, because I feel like
it all parallels.
Yeah, he's just kind of putting it in words that he can understand.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep. He goes into like Lucifer's incarnation and the Luciferic beings, or he mentions like the holy rishis, the sages in India. There was this influence of the Luciferic beings, and their mission or our job as humans is, for the mystic, is to take that information and to use it in a Christed way or a creative way that's of service to humanity. Because fundamentally the information that's coming from that source isn't good or bad, but it is the aim of the Luciferic beings to fundamentally draw humans away from Earth and create an aloof state of consciousness that's totally aloof from the Earth. So that's where you have, you look at severe drug addictions, they're completely removed from the material world, and there's negative consequences that come with that, morals go out the window. So that's just one force that we're constantly, that's tugging at us.
Right.
Something that I really liked, if we're creative and we're doing something with our hands, that is fundamentally pushing those forces off of us. It's pushing them away, and we're aligning with that Christ force, which is the creative force. And you can see it all in nature. Like, the structure of these trees and everything, that's harmonic, but there's also the other innate side of intelligence that permeates that, that's bringing that to life. And so fundamentally within that, there is a creative force, and that creative force is we could say the Christ consciousness force. That's what pulls it all together, especially if we're creating in a service to others, oriented, with that intention. And then we kind of push and pave. And I thought it was interesting the way that paralleled to, like, the heart chakra, for example, being represented as the creative center, and our hands being almost direct extensions. I'm just playing with thought, but
no, I mean, that's what I do too. Yeah. All the time. I think that's what you have to do. That's the creative side of being a human, is you hear one person's translation. Ooh, bug. You hear one person's ideas, and then you take their ideas, and you basically take everything you've learned in life, and you try to make that fit in somewhere. And sometimes you draw the parallels, and you make a different idea out of that. So, I mean, I think you have to play with the thoughts that way, because, I mean, if you look at a human body, it's technically a cross, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. It's there's definitely something there for sure.
What an interesting guy Steiner was.
Yeah. He's a total, I mean, he is just something else.
So how do you think, do you think you've reached the point of Christ consciousness, or do you think you ever will?
I have found, it's kind of like a tricky thing to say. But
because when you say it, that means you haven't, right?
yeah,
Or so they say.
yeah, right. And I think it is. I think it's somewhere between nirvana and being in the world. I think it's somewhere. It's not nirvana, but it's not samsara. I think it's floating in the middle and being in that grounded. You're not in this like aloof kind of place of like, oh, I'm just in nirvana all the time. Like you're practical and you are in the world, but you're serving. And I definitely, there are states of consciousness that I've been subject to that I would consider, we could say it was a Christ consciousness like state.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think everybody's capable of that. It's not like, it's some select few group that can experience Christ consciousness. Everybody can experience it. And probably a lot of people already have to some capacity, we could say. And I just think that's where, people are really avoiding responsibility, because if they really accepted, you're telling me that, I can embody a state of consciousness and beingness that is that resembles the Christ figure, that's a huge responsibility for someone to look at and actually undertake, I think. And so people kind of shy away from that, and they don't want to take that responsibility.
What do you think people even understand that statement?
No.
Because I think a lot of people, they look at Christ like, this is something that I pray to. This is something that was, and I'll never be this guy. Like I pray to this thing, this entity. But it's like, I can never conceive myself of being this.
Yeah. And I think that's a deception.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really what he was, I think that's really what he was trying to convey to people is, hey, you can do this too. And I'm conveying this in a way for the consciousness at that time where maybe not everybody's going to fully understand that this is possible, because I might be stoned to death, or the people I teach this to might be stoned to death, but I can at least give a path that will still help them. And I think Christ came at the time to give teachings that were a direct counter to the Luciferic force and actually balance things. Because Lucifer, according to Steiner, Lucifer's incarnation was about 3,000 years or 5,000 years. Like 3,000 years before Christ. So I think he came to give a direct filter that actually would help us. And I think whether people come to that or not, I still think finding the salvation through that lens is better than zero overall. Wow.
Little deer walked down on us. So I don't want to cut you off, but
you did say like, hey,
and one might come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Lucifer really was a real guy, what do you think he was like? Because it's cool. Well, you know what Christ was like, right? But what it was Lucifer really like? Do you think he was really a bad guy? Or what if they were the same guy?
I don't think so, but I think
because Lucifer is technically the light bringer, right?
Yeah. So this is okay. So this is where like I feel like territory that I can't enter with most people.
Okay.
So, and Steiner mentions this, and I kind of had said like the rishis, those sages, they were able to draw from this Luciferic source, but not in a way that would negatively affect them or anybody else. So Steiner's kind of saying, don't look at the Luciferic force from this Philistine attitude that says, oh no, we can't look at that. That's evil. I completely reject that. That's super dark. I think at the time it was there's no, he kind of explains the Luciferic force is where we got our intellect, our ability to reason. And there was so much wisdom and information emanating from, he describes Lucifer's incarnation being in China. There's so much that came from that sprang forth, like the pagan wisdom and, how we map the stars, and all of these things came from the Luciferic wisdom. And probably Greek mythology, a lot of that stuff is really coming from that. So is it bad? It's difficult to say. We could say it's bad because the idea of the Luciferic being, he kind of mentions we were in this state of consciousness that was like, 8,000 years ago. That was whenever we were awake, we were more animal. And we recognized that when we were sleeping, we realized we were spirit. So there was more of this dichotomy between spirit and animal. And had we just had the Lucifer's incarnation not been, had it not been, we would have been on this path of evolution where slowly the spiritual and matter are slowly integrating together. And then now there's not this artificial separation, and we're coming into matter as spirit, and we're merging slowly, and it's an organic process, and we can live in the material world completely unified with spirit. The aim of the Luciferic beings was to basically draw humans into the material world too fast, or a lot faster. So now we can interface with this material world, but
spirit's not with us.
Right. Now there's an illusion, there's a deception going on where it's like, well, where, this is, we can do so many things, and we can, it's not, we're having this conversation, we're able to read, and there's so many awesome things, right? But we miss that, that there is an illusion, an elusive quality to it. And I think, that's what Steiner's trying to highlight, is to be aware of that, so that that illusion is not bringing us down, and we can actually use it to springboard and evolve faster.
So do you think there's a way to draw your spirit into the physical body? Because I feel like that.
I don't quite, I mean, I don't completely understand the mechanics of that. Like, because I think, is that possible? Yes. I wonder sometimes, is it our spirit is already here and it's more subtle and less activated, and we just have to become aware of it? Or is it, we're literally like drawing that in and embodying it? But either way, to some capacity, we definitely are, on this path of interfacing with spirit on a regular basis, where our personality and ego structure is, braiding with spirit. We're not like trying to kill the ego or anything. They're braiding and coming together and merging, and we are spirit walking this earth, and we're not just identified or living in the lower mind or the ego at whatever percentage or calibration that is. I think however that looks like or works, definitely it's possible. How it works, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's where the kundalini comes in. Have you looked into that very much?
It's really interesting you brought this up, because it was maybe a few weeks ago, I was having this just bizarre like kundalini experience, and oh my gosh, it's like, man, that state of consciousness is so, it was just energy just rippling and traveling up my spine like palpably, and I was like, whoa, just surreal kind of like compassion and this lucid awareness. And recently I've definitely wanted to dive more into, I have done a lot of I looked into that a lot when I was first awakening. That was kind of the most relevant topic at the time. And I kind of, was looking at other teachings, but now I'm kind of circling it back to that and finding out where it all fits, the Christ force, plus taking all these teachings and combining it in a way where it's like, whoa, this all parallels and gels, and this light body kundalini Merkaba activation is totally, I can palpably see it and translate it and embody it from all these different angles. And it's not this super mystical, ultra mystifying, concept, that just eludes me.
Yeah. I think for me, the kundalini was very eye-opening, because the yogis actually break it down in a scientific manner too.
It is very scientific. Yeah. And that's unfortunately the Ahrimanic culture that we live in, that's like scientism, that's like, no, that can't exist. What are you talking about? That's crazy. There's no scientific basis to that. Like, if you look at real science, if you actually apply the scientific method, to mystic phenomena, you can actually get to the bottom of a lot. And they were able to really map it out very, very well.
Incredible for doing it at the time they were doing it too.
Absolutely.
Or
incredible.
What we think the time they were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right.
thinking about the yugas, like we don't really know what time is. Time is a very cyclical thing. So I think
it is fundamentally just cycles.
Yeah, so I think that every time every time we have a cycle, I even think that we've been here before. I think that we've had this conversation before. Maybe not right here in this place with microphones and computers and things like that, but I think that we may have been sitting around a fire at one point and we had this conversation in different languages.
Yep.
But I think that we're just back around the cycle right now. And it's funny what you were saying about the
I'm getting chills.
Yeah, you were saying about the expanding of what were you saying? That what is the our moniker, what Christ conscious is now is different in the future.
Right.
So I think that's what time is. Time is an expanding cyclone of energy, a vortex of energy. And I think that the reason Christ conscious is different whenever you get to a different time period is because it's expanded out.
Right.
Same way as the world. Where I say before you and I were sitting around a fire pit, it's because now we're at a different point in time where technology has progressed to this right here. And then after you and I die, we're going to come back and we'll have this conversation again. Maybe this time we'll be using our brains just to teleface.
Yeah. No, that was exact. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Like it's always, because everything is kind of like, there's an organic evolution and progression to everything in some sense, whether it's the material forces or it's the spiritual forces. So there's always going to be, things are going to be relevant, like something that was relevant 2,000 years ago might not be relevant at all now. And probably a lot of it isn't. I think there is some timeless wisdom for sure. But yeah, like you said, like 1,000 years from now, 500 years from now, it could be way, 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 just totally different. The way that takes form and manifests and actually reaches people.
Yeah, I think the timeless wisdom to all this is how we activate our bodies and how we move in our bodies, because that's the part that you really have to rediscover each time you come into a new body. The technology is going to be different every time. Yeah, ancestry. Yeah,
how much memory this body holds from eons.
Yeah, genetic memories, all kind of stuff. The technology is going to be different every time we come around, and we learn how to use that. But these things are pretty much, they haven't changed that much.
Right.
So trying to like learn how to use these things and use them correctly. And I think that's where a lot of religions come into play. And I think even Steiner's talking about this, where he's trying to get you to achieve this thing he calls, Christ consciousness or the Christ force, whatever he calls it. They're basically telling you, and this is where I've had the kundalini experience. I just want to go back to Hinduism and stuff, because I've had the craziest experience whenever I was practicing pranayama yoga, pranayama breathing techniques. I actually had I was doing these. I was doing the hyperventilation of the chest cavity. It was some crazy stuff that I was doing, and even some of the stuff said it was very dangerous to do. But I was like pushing myself. I was at a point in my life where I was like, if this does hurt me, I don't care. Like, I need something else. Like, I need to know what's going on.
Yep.
And at the end of that experience, all I can say is something shot into my chest. I think you and I talked about this last time.
Yep.
So whatever that was that came into me at that point in time, and that's why I say it could have been the soul or the spirit that we're talking about, like where it was cut off. Because I know that Steiner actually wrote, and this is what actually turned me on to Steiner in the beginning, was he wrote that soon we'll have a vaccine that cuts the human being off from the soul. And that right there really made me dive into his work. And it was after that experience that I bumped into Steiner. Like, I bumped into his work after that experience. So the entire time I had that kundalini type experience, I was flying blind. And it was good that I was flying blind, because I was just, going off intuition.
Right.
And even the
just
time
raw experience.
Oh, well, this is my body. I was just listening to everything my body said. Like, my body told me to stop eating meat.
Yeah.
So I started eating mangoes.
Same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
Whenever I first had mine, I just like that. And I was good. I was great, actually. I was
you're purifying the body.
Psychically explosive.
Yeah, I think it's what it is. You're purifying the body. Because I eat meat again now. But I think at that point in time, my body needed to be pure. And Steiner writes about this too. He says you have to purify the body in order for the etheric body and the astral body to come together. So he says when you purify the body, you actually purify the etheric body as well. And when you purify the etheric body, then the astral body can actually manifest.
In your waking consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's what I was doing at that point in time is I was purifying myself, going strictly off intuition.
Yep. And the kundalini process is really fast.
Yeah.
Like that's why there's always the warnings. It's like it can just boom, rapid transformation.
Yeah. And I've been different ever since, man.
Oh yeah, same.
Like it's eye opening.
It's like it was definitely like totally different.
Yeah.
After that.
Well, it's like now I'm not driven by the animal side of myself. Like everything that I do now has conscious behind it.
There's that intention.
Yeah. Whereas before, it seemed like I was just being tossed around by I'm hungry. I want to go find somebody to bang. Yep. Like all this crazy shit.
Yep. Like I need this. I need dopamine here. I need that.
Yeah.
Just very. Yeah. We could see the animal. And even on the back of that, I think I don't remember who wrote this. It was like the foreword for that book. He kind of mentions, he's like, we have this pull, this tug of war, and we're half beast, half angel.
Mm.
And I thought I was like, whoa, that actually makes a lot of sense. We kind of are.
Lower 3 chakras, upper 3 chakras. Yeah.
And then the heart's
in the
Christ
middle.
Force, the creative force, where yin and yang meet, and I think, as far as energies go, I think this is like a very, I feel like this would just put a lot of people off, but I think through this spiritual journey, we are becoming fully empowered in our masculine and feminine energies. Fundamentally, they're just energies. It doesn't have anything to do with how it manifests with your identity or personality. Fundamentally, I think we are moving towards that. And I think when we are 100% spirit embodied, then we're 100% empowered in our divine masculine and 100% empowered in our divine feminine. I don't think that's just fundamental energetics. I don't think that has anything to do with, gender. I think it's just core energetics and empowerment. And
it's just a way to describe them.
It's just a way to describe it. And I think, honestly, on the planet right now, there's a lot of people who intuitively are, in some sense, getting that information and they're digesting it, and it's manifesting as this, the animal body being distorted. It's like that same idea, but it's becoming now like we're not living with the course of how things are, and we're forcing and going against the grain of our bodies so that it's like we're trying to take that same concept but apply it to our physical bodies because people are so into the physicality. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Like I'm kind of
so it's coming out as a gender thing.
Right. I think people intuitively are getting this more on Earth. They're like, oh yeah, it's not this hyper masculine thing. It's not this hyper feminine thing. It's like, where do the forces meet? And that's happening more organically within people, but it's huge. Manifesting
as a physical thing
because they are in their physical and lower mind. So it's now they're like, well, I'm taking this information. I'm trying to make it material. It's like, no, it's just fundamental energetics that you're trying to harmonize. And it doesn't have to do with the physical body.
That's interesting.
And
that's huge.
Yeah,
dude, that's huge. That's a new perspective that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah,
and that makes total sense now.
It's really like the spirit that's trying to bring that through, but they're filtering it through the animal body, and I think that is part of the Ahrimanic influence. And then why you see like Satan or whatever is like transgender, and why you see all this like just confusion and distortion everywhere. It's like it's because that idea is being that concept is not being purified and legitimized, if that's a word, integrated with the spirit and body. It's just being manifested through the body. So now there's this crazy distortion, and now we're getting extremely far removed from spirit and what our bodies are actually wanting, you know. And now you have, you know, California trying to pass laws to get 7-year-olds to have hormone replacement. I'm like, this is
insane.
This is absolutely insane, ridiculous, and evil.
Yes, I completely am. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life. Trying to get kids on hormone replacement therapies. I'll go on record saying it's fucking retarded.
Yeah, dude. And sex changes. I'm like, come on, dude. These are kids.
They're children. What do they know? So back on what you were saying though. The energy that's coming through. What if the chakra that these people are most heavily influenced by in their body, maybe the lower chakras, like you're saying, the animal chakras, what if that's the one that the energy is flowing through? So if you actually raise up and get into the higher chakras, that you'll see that the energy is the feminine and the masculine trying to combine. God, that's huge, man. So that's probably why
it's that distortion in that whole energy field. And it's
well, you could even say that that's the whole reason for the pandemic and stuff, to try to keep people in the lower chakras, the fear-based chakras, to lower them down. Because if you're living with love and not fear, a love-based life, then you're going to be in the upper chakras, which means the energy is going to flow through the upper side of things.
All of them in balance.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And so there's Lucifer's incarnation, right? And then he talks about about right now on Earth is Ahriman's incarnation.
What is Ahriman? What is his symbol?
He is,
because Lucifer's a snake, right?
I don't know.
Is that not how they symbolize him?
Could be. I don't know though.
Because that also brings into light the kundalini, because kundalini is technically signified by the snake as well.
Right. Yeah. Could be. You know, you think of tree of knowledge, information, intellect, knowing, you know, that kind of makes sense. You know, there was that pull, the fall, you know, the fall as in drawing from spirit too soon into the material world. Ahriman is a Zoroastrian god. Zoroastrianism is Persian. That's a Persian religion, an ancient Persian religion. And he was known as the Lord of Lies, that tried to always convince humans that they were never, that we're not spiritual beings, and that, you know, there are these limitations that we have. And I think, right now, the vaccine we can say is an Ahrimanic force, because it's quite literal. And I intuitively knew, I got that information, that download as soon as this whole thing started. I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's shifting your DNA, but I was like, this is going to end up altering, and it's going to end up altering your DNA. And people are like, no, it's this. I'm like, and now it's coming out like it does do that. You know, it's like kind of like to me, it's like, duh. And that DNA is just like source code. That's like our etheric connection. And it's like, it's severing and it's cutting that off. And I think, you know, that's the Ahrimanic influence. It's trying to just draw people more into the hyper material, and then become even more dependent on that and live in that realm, so that they don't become spiritually activated and empowered to propel and project and create this new paradigm or revolution of consciousness, this great awakening, and let it flourish. So there's that push there. I was tying all that together, but the vaccine is definitely an Ahrimanic. It's an Ahrimanic manifestation. Yeah. It's a hyper materialist, and it's this thing of scientism. It's like, trust the science, follow the science. Like that's it's like, is this like a priest, you know, like, why are you having these people think for you that you think are so much smarter than you? And I'm not saying I completely understand everything about vaccines, but I know,
but you can look at
about this one 100%. Like, this is totally,
well, I mean, I feel like
totally evil.
You can do your own research. That's what I was telling people. You know, people are like, oh, well, you got to listen to the science. And it's like, well, how about you just read a paper yourself?
They're not listening to science. They're listening to scientism.
That was,
or science as a religion, dogmatic religion.
It was terrifying to me how many people just went along with it.
I was really upset.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell people, I was like, hey, look, this is exactly what's going on. This is exactly what this is. Don't do it. And people did it.
No, it's fear-based living. Like they feared they were going to die. It's like, you're going to die anyway.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like yeah. And I guess I can't totally blame people if they're doing it out of like the intention of like, I'm trying to help somebody or something like that. But it's like,
luckily my family all listened to me besides my, my brother-in-law.
mm-hmm.
He's the only one who wouldn't listen to me. He chose to take the doctor's advice over mine, which, make your own choices, but, we'll see in the end, if he's okay or not, but everyone else in the family, they didn't do it.
Yeah. And they're perfectly fine.
Yeah. Perfectly healthy.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly healthy. And yeah, it was just, I mean, we could go on and on.
Have you had any friends that have had any issues with it? Because I have.
I've heard of like the rashes and the stuff like that. And I can't say any friends that I've encountered any direct like manifestations of, I mean, no blood clots or anything too crazy, but definitely the rashes.
For my friends, it's been, they've been trying to get pregnant. And these are people that should be able to get pregnant. And yeah.
They can't.
Yep. It's been quite a few of them too.
Yeah, I remember the fertility and period thing, like it throwing off women's menstrual cycles massively. And I was like, whoa, and then they, the media is like, no, that's not real. That's all fake. It's like, come on, there's tons of people talking about this, like where they're not crazy. They're not stupid, like got a vaccine. My period's messed up for indefinitely. Like,
when people that have gotten pregnant and had kids before, and now they can't get pregnant again, it's like, I mean, This is sus.
Really, it really is. It's like, it's almost like they're trying to kill us. It's almost like they don't want, 8 billion humans and souls awakening, because that would completely shift everything massively. And people would be like, oh, that's a conspiracy. That's like, it's like, okay.
So we had one, okay. Some of my friends were in the bar one day, and they're like distant friends, they're not like close friends, but they were talking about, going to the fertility clinic because they couldn't get pregnant. And they were also saying that, well, while we're there, we're going to get our third vaccine too. And in my mind, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, are you?
Yeah.
Like, can you not connect the dots, people?
Yeah. Like, let me go. Yeah.
That's like, you're damaging yourself.
And it's like, how many boosters, like indefinite boosters? It's like, when has anybody ever done this for a disease that has an incredibly low mortality rate? And then they skew the statistics. And I had people telling me like, oh, but people are, this is all. I'm like, yeah, but they're just listing all of these deaths as COVID deaths, and they're not,
Yeah.
Like, duh.
Even my grandma. So my grandma, they basically locked her in the nursing home and wouldn't let the family in or anything. Her last 6 months or whatever, she died of depression. She didn't die of COVID, but guess what went on her death certificate? COVID.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you isolate somebody from their friends and family. Where is their will to live? And then, they're like, oh, somebody can't die from depression. Okay.
At the end of your fucking life too, man. Like, that's so insane.
That's ridiculous. And that's just like one example of like, wow, like, I couldn't see this person because some person, somebody in an authority position says I just can't. That's based on nothing.
Some bureaucrat got paid.
And then everybody's listening to it.
Yeah.
That's even crazier. It's like, let me go into a restaurant and wear my mask for a minute until I sit down to take it off. I'm like, who is listening to this? This is like ridiculous. This is just like, how do you not see that they're just cultivating like obedience? It's like,
no, I mean, for me, it was very eye opening, because now whenever I think about rules don't really apply anymore. And in my mind, I play by the rules to an extent. But a lot of things now, I'm just like, you know what? If I want to do something, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And whoever gets in my way, I'm just going to say, dude, get the fuck out of my way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they do it.
Yeah.
They move. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to go do this thing.
Yeah, like it's
almost like,
it's almost like we make the rules.
oh my gosh.
Oh.
That's why this podcast too, I love it, because I walk up to people and I'm just like, hey, you want to come be on the podcast? And they're like, what? Yeah, absolutely. It gives me an opening to like learn from this person.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before I would have walked up to someone, hey, will you have a 2-hour conversation with me? They're like, no, I've never seen that. Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Why are we doing that?
No, but yeah, we can do anything with this podcast. Anything. We can do anything we want to. It's play. We play now.
Yeah. We're just playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing about the podcast too is it takes, I'm going to do some more Steiner gymnastics here, but it takes speech and it takes language and it filters it through these harmonic devices, and that's where there's that balance. And now we're in this creative space too. So we just, with the podcast, it's like, well, if we, like you said, if we're having a 2-hour conversation, well, that doesn't go anywhere. We're just like air balloons talking our heads off. But with the podcast, it's like, oh, we're recording this, and this is like tangibly being made manifest into the world. Like, whoa, hey, this makes this suddenly really cool.
Yeah, you never know whose ears it's going to fall on too, right?
You never know whose ears it's going to fall on.
There could be someone out there that's like, who the hell is Rudolf Steiner? And now they're going to go start looking into his work.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
You know, what is he doing? And they'll be like, oh yeah, Rudolf Steiner, he's a quack, and these guys are totally these guys are trippy, man. Like they're really out there.
There's some people in New Orleans that definitely think that about me, but it hasn't stopped me from talking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're just too young. I think whenever they get a little bit older and have a little more life experience, I'll be like, damn it, what he said was fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really off the wall for some people, and everybody's at a different point in consciousness where they can receive that. And it's like, I just kind of got to the place where I'm like, I don't take it too personally anymore. It's
what's interesting to me that you've managed to be who you are in this area. Like I don't know how. Well, dude, if I would have stayed around here, there's no way I would be this guy.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Yeah.
I think I appreciate that. The travel, I think, has really helped open up things, and just having a pretty good support system, friends and family who do resonate, that I've had experiences with for a long time, that give me a sense of belonging while I am here. At the same time, I try to think like I'm just here on earth, and it's, it doesn't matter what kind of society I'm in. Maybe I need to be in a society that's more like this because it actually balances things out for the people around me. But, I try to just look at things like I'm just in the world. I'm not in a state. I'm not in any culture. I'm just here. I'm just here on earth. And I don't necessarily have to be around people that are thinking like me or anything. I can kind of lone wolf it and create. But at the same time, definitely, I look forward to being in a place that's, where I can be ultimately of more service and people are more receptive to change and growth in these things. And thankfully we have the internet, so that helps. But Jonesboro definitely isn't the final destination for sure.
Yeah, for me, whenever I'm back here, it's almost like I'm too connected to this place, my family and everything. I can't achieve like the level of consciousness that I live in New Orleans, because down there I'm totally alone. I'm isolated most of the time. I run the business, and then I pretty much go back into my hole, and I edit, or I read books,
eat mangoes.
Yeah. I mean, I meditate every day, but I live this yogic lifestyle where I'm just almost away from everything and disconnected. And it gives me a sense of clarity on a lot of the bigger picture issues, because it almost seems like when you're in a place that's this beautiful and you have this many friends around, you want to be connected to the world. Yep. And you can't scale out and see from a large picture because you're looking at it from a localized perspective. But it's like when I get down there, I'm so disconnected from everyone that I love and everyone that are my friends, that I can actually take the time to scale out and go, okay, let's look at these big picture issues.
let's look at the big picture issues. Where can I integrate in the world from this place and not from where other people know me and how other people know me. And immediately when I'm around people I know and friends and family, beloved friends and family, still it's like it reactivates so many neural pathways and it just takes me into that a different part of myself that isn't bad. But at the same time, I want to be showing up in the world as this transformed and this transformed, actualized version of me that is engaging in a way that's relevant to that what I'm seeing when I zoom out, like you were saying,
Yeah, I feel like there's a time and a place for these things, and right now,
right, a time and a place. For sure.
Right now, the world isn't the time and the place for all the loving, caring stuff. Right now, it's a time for
like critical, like to me, like critical, the deep critical mission work. That's it's not like this surface level. It's like really, really potent and transformative. It's not a shallow form of helping somebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're genuinely helping somebody, I guess there is no shallow form, but just its maximum impact, whether it's planting a seed in a tree for this person or whether it's delivering, the new cutting edge information that takes you from one state of consciousness to another, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. My thing is, I feel like there are certain problems that certain people can see. And so in my mind, I can see a lot of the big picture issues. So it's like, yes, I could be here and focus on, my loving and caring family. And I could even go start a family with someone and have kids and have the human experience, the official human experience. Or I could, because I've been given this ability to see the big picture, I could keep focusing on it and try to actually find a way to solve it. It's almost like, it's almost like if you can see a problem, you have, you now have, you have a responsibility to try to solve it.
Exactly. And especially if you know how to solve it.
Yeah.
Which, there are very, very dynamic solutions that we have now that we know, especially if you're a mystic, where it's like, well, there's a lot we can do here actually. And, how do we get to the source and the core of things? And now that I know that there's this problem, and now that I know that there's a solution, there's not really much else for me to do with myself but to solve this problem.
Well, that's me now. And some people would say that I'm cocky, but I just think that I have enough knowledge in my head that I feel like if I get accurate information.
Well, you can't be too humble. You can't make yourself small. I mean, you can't make yourself big, but if it's true and it's relevant, why shrink down? Why are we so conditioned to be like, super small and like ultra humble? It's like, if I know something, I know, and I'm going to say it like it is.
Yeah. If you put the work in.
Yeah. Exactly.
I put the work in and now I can say this, and I'm confident enough to say that if I can get accurate information, there's probably not many things that I can't solve.
Yeah. Can solve all of the world's problems.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I promise you that if I could get accurate information, my hands on accurate information, and I think that's my problem right now is I'm having to go through so much disinformation and misinformation to get accurate information, because it's almost like you have to find the commonalities in all the bad information to decipher the good information.
Right.
And if that would be
like reading code.
Absolutely. It's what it is. Yeah. So if you could just get like accurate information, then I think a lot of the world's problems would be solved, because I feel like if there's a problem on this planet, there has to be a solution, and that's the balance, the duality. So for a problem to exist, the solution has to exist too.
Absolutely.
It's just finding the right person that has the right solution.
The right person that has the right solution. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Just like, where is it? Where is that person? And that person also needs to get it out to as many people as possible, because, and I think about that too sometimes, it's like, there's probably dozens of people waiting that they're like, oh, if only I had this or this angle or this perspective. And it's like, people like me and you could be putting that out there and shipping that out, and it could, even if it transforms 100 lives, if it transforms one person, that's huge.
That's what we try to do with the bar. It's not, we don't do it on a huge scale, but there are a lot of artists that come through the bar, and I know artists, in my opinion, are they're the future. There's the solution to a lot of problems, because these guys are putting out a message, and this message can be received by other people. They're creating, right? So any of the artists that come through the bar, we try to work with as many as we can. We try to record their music. We try to do skits with the comedians, just try to boost these guys up as much as we can, because, like I said, I think these guys are the solution to a lot of the problems.
They are culture creators.
Yeah.
And the information and the music that penetrates, it goes in. It goes into you, you know, and it's like having that visceral light, you know, experience where you're ignited or lit up inside. That's one of the most potent. One of the most potent things, if not the most.
Yeah, live music, man.
Best ever.
Freaking love it.
Amazing.
Yeah, we have.
I want to play live music. I play guitar and drums. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm, really looking forward to jumping in.
Dude, if you ever get down to New Orleans,
I know, right?
We have open mic nights.
I know.
Come through and play some music for us.
I know. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, we even have a sound room down there, dude. If you got a few songs, we could record some of your music. Yeah.
Look at this.
I mean, like I said,
instant manifestation of a studio.
It's play, dude. It's play.
It's play.
It's play.
No, I love that. I probably will take you up on that as soon as I acquire, the drum set, and it's a whole thing. But yeah. I played drums and guitar for a long time.
Really?
Drums for I'm pretty sure I've played drums in past lives.
Nice.
Because I was in second grade and I was like, oh, I have rhythm and I can play drums. And then maybe guitar for 8 years now.
Yeah, it's something I never really picked up was an instrument. I guess the computer's my instrument.
Yeah, the computer.
Yeah, I can play those pretty good.
Yeah. Man, something else I was going to kind of touch on that just now slipped my brain.
Sorry, I have something I want to touch on too. Yeah. Death. Yeah. What do you think death is? Because I've been looking at it here lately in the quantum side of things, where if we take the heart as the electromagnetic center of the body, right? I think that death could be when the magnetic side of the body shuts down, and then it releases the electric side of the body. So the electric side of the body is the soul. The magnetic side of the body stops working, then the soul has to let go of the body, because electromagnetism is, coupling.
That makes perfect sense to me.
But then it
makes perfect sense.
But then it also brings into question, if the earth is moving through space, then does the electricity side of the soul slip off the earth once the earth moves?
I don't know.
I know. It's tricky, huh?
I don't know, but it makes sense that, we're dissolving into energy fundamentally, or we are energy, but becoming, we that's our primary form. Electrical though, or what if what if both dissolve? I don't know. Maybe some capacity, maybe the like you said, it bounces off, and then now we're just in the sea of energy of
the trail of energy that the earth leaves behind.
Right. Yeah.
But then can you go anywhere you want to
after death?
Yeah. If you're just flying through space as energy. I don't know. It's very, very conceptual. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. What I like to think genuinely happens after death is I think it does. It could depend on what state of consciousness I am. I would really like to just leave my body. But I think that's an aspect, but I think there is to some degree or octave, some return or some place, we can call it quasi place, that's hey, like a review or or you return back to where you came from if you haven't came from here. I don't know. But I think there is some like intermediary, like, okay, well, what's next? You know, what's the next mission? Where's the next soul evolution? What vibration is this specific soul at, and where is it most relevant in the universe to be? And maybe then we just bloop, go back.
What if that's what the karma is? Maybe the karma holds you to the planet.
I've had that thought too. And yeah, that's why then there's this thought of like, you want to get out of samsara, but at the same time, you want to be so integrated with it that you almost, I don't want to say don't want to leave, but you've achieved so much harmony with it that it's almost not a factor, and you're not in bondage. You're not in the, I guess we could say, like, limits of samsara, and we're in the middle of nirvana and samsara. And but yeah, I don't know, maybe the karma, I know I have had that same thought. It's like, well, what responses do I consciously have after I die that leads me to coming back here? And do I want that? And is that a good thing? I don't know. I think we do. I think a lot of souls go to different realms and places like Earth, wherever they're at in their development, they can be of most service to that collective. And then they accelerate their soul growth a lot faster. Even if that soul is like a higher density soul, for example, I think they can grow and move through. And fundamentally, by the time, they've polarized and they've changed enough to where they can get to the next stage in their spiritual development from where they what octave or bandwidth they were originally incarnating or coming from. I was really stretched out and out there, but is that kind of like, let's say we look at it let's look at it as like layers.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm just going to use like me as an example.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this very plainly and not care if I get flack for it, but I'm like a 6th density soul. Mm-hmm. So we're in this 3D, 4D, 5D realm, we're in this in-between transition on the planet. And I'm coming here because my specific soul, where it's at on its journey, in its polarization, I can be most of service with where the collective bandwidth is right now. And I think it's much more rapidly accelerating, and I'm even more of service than if I were doing something in a 6th density landscape. Mm-hmm. So this is even more polarizing and accelerating, so that once I return or arrive back at my original state or home, or where my soul is from, then I will be able to jump into the next octave of experience or development much faster than if I were doing something that was less, maybe not as potent as incarnating into a human body.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. You're helping lift this planet up to a higher dimension. So therefore it helps you lift up to a higher dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm further polarizing more and more to service to others. Have you read The Law of One?
No. I should read it, huh?
You'd really dig it.
Do you have it on a paperback copy?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I borrow it on the way back?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Yeah, I'll be at the gym this week. So if you just bring it up there to me, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to you next time I come to town. But I think you gotta think about that from like a different perspective. If it's almost like being a very wealthy man, I'm gonna try to put it in human form. Being a very wealthy man and then going, you know what? I'm gonna give all my money up to go down and help the poor grow their wealth. And that's in turn going to make me wealthier. There's no human that's going to do that. Like, the sacrifice that it takes to do something like that is huge. Mm-hmm. So coming down from a 6th dimension to help the poor, 3rd dimension entities grow, that's a sacrifice that most people can't even comprehend.
I never thought about it like that. It kind of is a sacrifice, but it's also like, I also kind of look at it as like a privilege. So that's why, like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just ready to be off of Earth. Like, get me off this rock, Like, I'm like, no, this is exactly where I want to be. And like, I want to be here. I want to how do I make this place heaven on earth and actually be a place that I would want to be and stay and live? And
I like that.
I mean, I don't know how many incarnations that's going to take. I don't know how indebted or karmically bound to this planet that I am. You know, I don't know. I have been here. I think this is my 45th incarnation here.
Jesus.
Though. Yeah. 45th.
Oh my God, dude.
And how I know that, that's like, I mean, I guess we could dive into that, but
is that an intuitive thing or did you go get like a regression or something?
It's both. And I struggle saying this because there is so much like skepticism around this entire thing.
It's okay. We're 2 hours into a podcast. No one's going to listen to this.
Are we really 2 hours?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so
we're so far in.
We're just talking.
We're just talking.
Podcast. Yeah. What's that? We're just talking conveniently into microphones, and we can just hear each other really well. So, for me to arrive at a place where I can say this confidently, it took many years, about 2 or 3 years, of breaking down these barriers of skepticism that I had around just spirituality in general. I was, out of the Ahrimanic deception and then maybe pulled and swung back into the Ahrimanic deception to a certain degree.
I think you were struggling with it the last time I was in. I feel like you were. Something in when you and I were talking at the gym the last time I was in.
That's right. Yeah. And a lot of that had to do with, that's why I really got into that book.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that pulled it all together where I was like, oh, okay. This isn't eluding me. It was because I was like uprooting and I was like zooming out and looking at everything and, where am I being deceived? What's true? What's real? Oh gosh, I felt so planted and comfortable in these, I don't even want to call them beliefs, but in these teachings, in these things I've learned, and now they're in jeopardy and they're up for question. But reading that book really helped pull everything together and demystify, what I arrived at fundamentally was just do the things, focus on what you can do right now in the short term, translate what you already do know before like overreaching and going way too far down and deep. It's like Spirit's like, before you receive XYZ, you need to just translate all this. Like you have this huge pile of oranges and you haven't even, it's the most simple thing for you, but you're like trying to go all the way out here, like prematurely. It's like, just translate this. And then I started the transformations and all that and doing like more of the health information and the physical body tools. So, and that's kind of giving me that grounded, like I'm translating, I'm creating, it's drawing in more of that Christ force. And I found a lot of balance through that. So anyways, these are teachers that I am like so blessed to have found them. It was definitely intuitively guided, but I had got readings from them and they have their whole mission work, their whole body of work is just incredible. It's like just like nothing I've ever seen before. Super, super resonant and just amazingly executed. And they have like different readings, going over your ascension consciousness level. Where are your masculine and feminine energetics? It goes on and on and on. What is your personality's willingness to merge, change, let go? What chakras are what do you need to focus on the most? Where are your energy bodies at clarity? Like what's their percentage of clarity, your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual energy bodies?
Do you have to be in the physical space with them when they're doing this?
No.
What do they look at to determine these things? Your star charts or something?
They take your name, but it's like an intuitive. So pretty much they're taking your name, and then because I've also put that signal out, they're taking that in through the ethers, and then they're channeling it. They're drawing it in.
So it's almost like they're asking their higher self to help with this.
Pretty much, yeah. Or their guides. And that was that whole realm of things is where I was like, how much, channeling and false light, this and that, where does it all come together? And I found my balance in place with all that stuff. because I think fundamentally it's how you use it. Because I took that example of, how did Steiner or how did those sages use this information? It's not good or bad. It's just, how is it used and translated, where maybe some channelers, maybe it is a little bit, there is like an aloofness, and there's kind of maybe like a disconnectedness, and it's lofty and kind of maybe a little bit too far out, and who knows where it's coming from, what source are they channeling this from? But I think the important thing is does it make sense? Is the information resonant? And I really, really looked at that, because this was maybe like the second reading I got from them, I started to have all the experiences first of the like next bandwidth description of the ascension consciousness scale. It was like 700 to 900. And I was having all of those experiences, and I was like, oh, like this is what's happening. And then I got the reading, and sure enough, I was like right at that threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a series of things that led me to that confirmation of their work.
What was one of the things that you're talking about? Like, what was one of the symptoms?
One of them is lucid states of consciousness as space and time and space start overlapping as you feel into future timeline and see future timeline potentialities.
Oh my God. That's a lot.
I know. They worded it better. That was me riffing, but like pretty much that's I was having that exact lucid experience and
looking through time and seeing what could happen next, the possibilities.
It's like you're dipping between the 3D space-time model, and you're also interfacing with the higher octave or higher vibration time-space model, which is like pretty much, you could look at it as being, I don't know, maybe more tapped into the causal field first and foremost versus... space-time, they're more split time-space. They're more, you're experiencing, it's like, that's where there's the instant manifestation and the whole hyper synchronicity. And it's kind of in that realm. And you can see, it's about, we're all subject to it. We're all psychic. We're all experiencing synchronicity.
No, that makes sense to me.
But you're just seeing it.
Once again, from the quantum world, right? The electromagnetic side of the body. Okay. I feel that once you understand that you're an electromagnetic being, you can essentially tap into the magnetic fields of the earth, and you can look the electricity go to the magnetic fields of the earth. Okay. When you're riding a magnetic field of the earth, then you can tap into the sun's magnetic field. Okay. If all this stuff's moving through space and time, what is space? What is time? Time is just us moving through space. All you have to do is go to the in front of the earth and the sun and look back, and then you're essentially in time. You're ahead in time, looking at where everything's going to go. That's how I make sense of all this, and that makes sense to me what you're saying right now.
Yeah, like because there's that non-locality, like thing, or the quantum entanglement, where it's like this particle and this particle can be resonant and communicate with each other, but they're like, light years apart, but they can still communicate. The whole non-locality thing. And there is this whole field and web of information that like you've probably heard of like the Akashic records, and it's all there in the ethers, just gotta tune our computers to receive it and understand that it's possible.
You almost have to let go of the body in order to tap into these things. That's kind of how I look at it. You let go of the body, twist out of the body, and then you're tapped into this energy that's all around us. Yeah. And I think the way you get around this energy is through magnetic field lines.
What do you mean, like get around it?
So whenever you talk about electromagnetic coupling, just like the wires up here, right? The power wires. Okay. So these power wires, a lot of people think the electricity runs through the power wires, but no, there's magnetic fields that are around the wires.
Because there has to be.
Yeah, and the magnetic field actually is the electricity moving. The electrons that are inside of the wires barely move. It's the magnetic fields that move. That's why electricity is instant. So the same thing with your body is you are an electromagnetic being. And when you realize this, then you can say, okay, well, maybe I can take this electricity and then I can tap into other magnetic fields around me. So the earth has a magnetic field lines, right? So if you're on one of the magnetic field lines, then you can say, okay, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to leave my body and I'm going to ride this magnetic field line up into the upper atmosphere. And once you start riding the Earth's magnetic field lines, then you can actually tap into other planets' magnetic field lines. One of the biggest magnetic fields in our solar system is Sol's, the sun, is the sun's magnetic field lines. So once you can ride the sun's magnetic field lines, then you can go anywhere you want to.
So this is like, would you say this is astral travel?
I would say this is astral travel, yes.
Okay.
And I would say even the sun is connected to a different star through magnetic field lines. So if you think
that intuitively makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like duh.
Yeah, right. Duh, right. Yeah. Well, once you hear it once, it's like, oh shit, duh. Yeah, but I mean, you're riding magnetic field lines, and I think that's what the Akashic records are. Is you just have to figure out a way to twist out of your body first, and then you just ride these magnetic field lines and take in this energy while you're out there.
Because it's all information.
Yeah,
you're just kind of like, yeah. At what point do like the lines blur between like how many mystical experiences can you have before the lines genuinely blur and it becomes almost like you can't bring it into the scientific realm, At what point is it genuinely just totally, utterly
I think at that
spirit,
point, you just wake up. Yeah.
Right.
And you're somewhere else and you're like, holy shit, like,
yeah.
What now? Yeah.
That reminds me of like this vision I had where it was like this collective nirvana. I think we probably talked about this, but this collective nirvana utopian vision I was having that I was immersed in. It was like I had a VR headset on and it was so bizarre, but like everybody around me, I knew so well. It was like, this was like humanity 1,000 years in the future. And everyone around me, I knew so well. And it was like, I was 100% myself. They were 100% themselves. And it was just this like collective nirvana thing, but I felt like pure soul, like pure, like, oh, like this is me. Like I have been living a complete amnesia dream my whole life, despite all the cool mystical experiences. Like this is really me. And coming into that, I was just like, like, how is this possible? What does this mean? At what point is this genuinely just a mystical fantasy? But, where does this actually come into? How much of this is actually relevant? How much of this information is actually like legit? But I had that visceral experience in that vision where I was like, everyone around me was like, oh, he's about to wake up. It was like a movie. It was like, everyone was like, oh, he's about to wake up. He's about to wake up. And then I woke up into this vision, into this realm, and it was like, whoa, like now I'm actually awake. Like I'm
so
like I am in this like heaven on earth paradigm.
Were you meditating or were you asleep or like what? Like what do you when you're saying the vision?
Probably like 4 grams of mushrooms.
Okay, yeah.
So and the only reason I think this happened was because
Shouts out mushrooms. Shouts out psilocybin.
Yeah, for real. It's because it was me and my buddy, and it was like I was just on this like rant. I was like, dude, I just woke up from a dream. I was having these like visions. And I was like, whoa, like I'm really interfacing with like the real me. And I was just like, I'm waking up from a dream. I'm waking up from a dream. I couldn't stop saying it. And then it was like that scene in The Matrix where like Neo, like his mouth is like,
oh yeah,
like he can't
grown
speak.
Over.
Yeah. And this like unsettling like force, I don't know, just like came over me and my buddy, and we could not shake it. And I'm pretty good at handling those types of things. We could not shake this thing. And it was like 20 minutes of riding out just this like darkness. It felt like I was like propelled into like past beyond just this realm. And it was like, I was seeing past lives and different lives where I was like, totally, chained or in some type of bondage. It was just really dark. It was just like, whoa, this is like to the bones, to the core, like freaky and just chilling and just dark. It was just dark. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to like say that it was bad. It was just revealing a viscerally what was lying in my subconscious. But I knew, you know, like what goes down comes up, you know? So I'm like, it's all cool. Kind of ride out that wave and eventually come to a place, literally go to my buddy's house. He had picked us up, go to his house. And I was like, my psyche was like, it was like everything was adjusting like, hey, you're good. Like, it's all cool. And then once I realized and really snapped into like, everything's good. This vision came over me. I did not do anything to induce it. And I was immediately like plugged into the causal field. So I would think something and then somebody would say something exactly, very specifically about that same thing or someone's name, or I would think it and then like, boom, on the TV, there's that person's name. Like it was bizarre. And I was like, okay, this is like, and then that vision just slowly came on and it was like, he's about to wake up and then boom, I like exploded into this. It's like I was seeing in ultra 4K, 8K HD. And I was like in this collective utopian nirvana thing, but I was around all these people that I knew. And it was like, it was just the fact that I could even be subject to that like possibility. I was like, whoa, like this is far beyond any concept of heaven I could have ever had. And it's here on earth with like people I know and love. And it was just, it was really, I mean, I think about that maybe every day.
I think that's those experiences, man. When you have those with mushrooms, it's just pure love.
Yeah,
absolute love. Like I've felt that
pure,
before.
Like streamlined love and connection. And I just, it's like, where does it all, what is that? It's like, how do I take that? And what was crazy is a few months after this, other people were having I was hearing about other people having this exact same experience. So there's like this collective higher mind. It seems like that's at work, that's exposing people to the possibilities of what this planet could be or why we're here. And it's like, these are conversations I've had with people. These are things I've heard on Netflix, what's his name? The guy who created, Duncan
Trussell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was describing the elevator experience and it's pretty much what I just described. And
it was the same thing, trip.
Pretty much. Yeah. He called it like the elevator hallucinogen. He was like, yeah, you go to the top floor, and I was on the top floor of a building. He was like, you go to the top floor of this building and it's like this party and it's like total nirvana. And like, that's exactly what it was. But I heard about this like months after I had that, so I was like, this is weird.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And I'm like, but like, yeah, where does it all connect? And Robert Monroe?
No.
Journeys Out of the Body. He would travel with these, like, I don't know what kind of beings they were, but at some point they were like, do you want us to reveal this to you? And they were telling him like, this is like 1,000 years in the future. And it was a very, very similar thing. And it quite literally felt like I was projected like, I don't know, 500, 700, 1,000 years in the future. But I also like to open up the possibility and the idea that same state of consciousness is available now, but I just might not be able to share it with people in the same way that I was then, where that's kind of like the collective state of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's also talked about in the Law of One material, where it takes a civilization about a planet about a few hundred years to like 700, 800, 900 years to actually see the fruits of it becoming of what a fourth density or higher dimensional planet, what it actually can look like and be. So around 700 to 1,000 years is when the fruiting of it would take place. So I think for the next like 500, 700 years, we'll be in like the
growth
transitional
phase.
Yeah, we'll be in the growth phase and the transitional phase, but at a certain point it's going to be like boom, we're like now we're at like the frontier, and you know, because we're going from the Iron Age into the Bronze Age.
And that makes total sense when we're moving through time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Time is our worst friend on this planet. Like everything could go so much faster if time didn't exist.
Yeah.
Nick Gliemann, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I think it's about to get dark on us out here. You're a man wise beyond your years, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kyle is a awesome soul brother, and I'm so grateful to always have chats and conversations. It's the best ever.
Thank you, brother.